Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 6 of Bungo Stray Dogs. We're halfway through season 1 at this point. How? I can't believe we're already halfway through season 1. I mean, we've got a lot to go still with Bungo Stray Dogs, and I'm really enjoying the show so far. It's been a nice setup. It's not been too rushed. It's taken its time to set up these characters, but as we've gone through episode to episode, Atsushi has been our primary focus, and Dazai's been there. Last episode, he was kind of just there for parts of it, and Kunikida has been there for parts of it, but Atsushi has been our constant. I like that Atsushi is going from character to character and kind of being our equivalent. He's being our eyes, seeing this agency unfold. And Rampo last episode, Rampo, however you want to say it, his character took me by surprise by the end because I thought I had him figured out, and then the moment Dazai's like, oh, he's not actually gifted, I was like, oh, it was just, I was so surprised. I did not see that coming. And so I find it very interesting that when I go to research Rampo for this episode, because he was the one I wanted to research, it's such a tease because the author was kind of like testing us as the audience of if we knew these authors or not, because Rampo Edogawa is a Japanese author who did mystery fiction, very much like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but his name, Rampo Edogawa, is a pun based off of Edgar Allan Poe, which is like, okay, Rampo and Edogawa. So I'm like, okay, so it's a pseudonym it's a pun for Edgar Allan Poe, which is really cool. And since he doesn't have an ability technically, it says that he's the only known ability user whose ability name is not a reference to the work that the author's named after. And that was supposed to be a hint to the audience that he didn't actually have an ability because it's not one of his stories. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Since I didn't know Rampo Edogawa, I didn't know the Ultra Deduction, which Ultra Deduction is kind of a weird name for a story anyway, so that should have been a hint. But I was like, okay, it'll be some weird story. Nope. It wasn't based off anything. And that's kind of cool. I like that the show is saying, okay, we're doing this theme of authors and abilities. Can you pick up on it? And that's kind of cool. My computer's glitching, so if my camera's funking out, that's why. We're going to blame Rampo and his non-ability. But I really have liked the story setting up these characters and doing these character episodes. And it looks like this episode might be Kunikida focused, which we know a little bit about Kunikida. We know that he was a math teacher, and we know his ability allows him to, anything he writes in the notebook, he can pull it out, kind of like Death Note style, and it will become that thing. So that's a cool ability. I'm assuming there's some caveats to it, some liabilities or some limitations. But I guess we'll see what happens. But it looks like it's Kunikida focused, which I love Kunikida, so I'm all about it. I'm like, yes, please. Let's have a Kunikida focused episode. I'm okay with that. So in any case, I'm very curious to see what happens. I hope y'all are too. I'm super excited for this episode. But yeah, the Azure Messenger. The blue messenger. I don't know, y'all. It sounds very interesting. But yeah, without further ado, we are going to start episode 6 of Bungo Stray Dogs. And we are going to do so here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Ooh, cool. And we're getting more with Kunikida and this girl. Man, Kunikida, look, buddy. Look, Kunikida. I like that we're establishing more with Kunikida's character, and it looks like the next episode is going to focus on Kunikida as well, which I really like. I love his character a lot. He's a perfect foil for Dazai with Kunikida's serious nature and like sense of duty. And Dazai, who is an ex-port mafia, which Octagawa almost let it slip, and we've established that no one knows what Dazai did in the past, so Octagawa is like slowly letting it slip that, you know, hey, he's an ex-port mafia guy, just so you know. But I like that Dazai's kind of this laissez-faire, carefree attitude about everything, and he does do his job, but he's kind of more like, I said in the comments he's like chaotic good, and y'all in the comments were like and I'm like, Don't spoil me. What does that mean? But I can kind of see now he's definitely more like chaotic neutral, maybe, like Dazai is, because he's not necessarily like the whole suicide angle, and then his ways of handling things. They remind me a lot of Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, where it's just chaos. It's just chaotic energy. And Kunikida is very lawful good. Like Kunikida is very like by the book, literally by the book. It's like his ideals. I think that's kind of weird. It's intriguing to know that he thinks he's got his whole life planned and he knows the future because it's all in that book. Like his plans, his schedules, everything. And he talks about meeting the love of his life 4 years from now, and he's going to get married 6 years from now. And it's like, dude. And then, of course, we get introduced to this woman, this lecturer in this episode. And it's like, she's, kind of could be your type. She's really nice. And I think that spontaneity is not something that is in Kunikida's repertoire. Like, he's just not somebody that's very spontaneous. And this woman coming into the picture, and it looks like she's going to come into the picture next episode. I'm like, Kunikida, she could be good for you. Like, you need to have a little spontaneity in your life. Come on. It's fine. You can totally do this. It's all good. But I love that. Octagawa, man, that sequence with him fighting Kunikida, it's such a tease because it wasn't long enough. I was like, it came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, we're here, we're doing this. But I love the idea that Kunikida, he doesn't intentionally try to hurt people or fatally wound them. Like, all of his attacks and all of his abilities he pulls from his book are all just to disarm or disable. They're not to fatally wound, and I like that a lot. This Azure messenger, I don't know. In the preview, in the flashback, everything was black and white, but they intentionally showed us that the Azure messenger was blonde and had a blue head wrap. And so I'm like, are you intentionally showing us that they're blonde because they're going to be in the next episode? I don't know. I get the idea that why would you not put them in black and white unless they were going to come back? So I'm curious to know. There's this blonde-haired character in the preview. So I'm curious if that's who it is. I don't know. They look like they have a power that has something to do with time manipulation, which is interesting. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm yawning. But I'm not tired. But I love that Atsushi is getting to be more on one with these characters. Like, he notes at the beginning that oh my gosh, the mushroom scene with Dazai, hilarious. And I like that Atsushi is like, you guys really you're not very compatible, but yet you guys work together. And I kind of, it's like the opposites attract sort of thing. Kunikida is very by the book and rigid and structured, and Dazai is very much, we'll just do whatever happens, and whatever happens, happens. And so they kind of balance each other out, because Kunikida, I think, sometimes can get too narrow focused. It's kind of like he has the glasses, he's nearsighted, he's got tunnel vision, he can see through this one lens, and it's good to focus, but sometimes the focus isn't where it should be. Whereas Dazai needs Kunikida to keep him in line and to keep him organized and in order, but Dazai is also very competent. And I like as soon as the Port Mafia gets mentioned. I'm curious to know the history with Dazai and the Port Mafia, because as soon as they mention the Port Mafia, Dazai is instant, like his whole demeanor seems to change, which is very, very interesting. And it makes me want to know more. Like, what are we missing that we've not talked about with you, Dazai? So curious. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be a two-parter. I feel like that we got the Azure messenger in this one, and it's setting up the idea of the organ trafficking group, and it's setting up Kunikida and this woman, and it's setting up them going after them, and it's setting up Octagawa maybe potentially coming back into the picture. But I feel like next episode is going to be part 2, where we continue on with it. And so I'm really curious. And what I love about this show is that a lot of you have said in the comments, and you've not spoiled me, which thank you, but a lot of you have been like, oh, my favorite character hasn't shown up yet. And I'm like, yeah, we haven't got to the favorite characters of some of these people. So that means, like, it has me excited to see who shows up and what ends up happening. But this was a good episode. The humor in this show surprises me every week. I'm like, this show's so funny, and I didn't expect it to be as funny as it is. And poor Atsushi the whole time, he's just sitting there like, I just want to do my job. So, in any case, I'm really curious to see what happens in part 2 of this, because it looks like it's going to be Kunikida focused again, and I love his character, so I'm excited for it, y'all. But I'm curious to know what your thoughts are down below. Thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe and take care. And yeah, next week I don't think I'll have anybody to research because we didn't get any new powers this time around. But that'll be all right. I'm excited to see the next episode, guys. I hope you all are too. And I'll be back next week with more Bungo Stray Dogs. Bye.